Next on the news, the New York Archdiocese greeting migrants arriving by the busload, how they will keep up their aid next. Also, residents in Kentucky hit by deadly flooding waiting for more aid from FEMA. National correspondent from the Tablet in Crux, John Lavenberg, is on the scene and tells us what the devastation looks like.
Peace to people of goodwill.
And why Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan was presiding over Mass at the beach. Plus,
it took a child that was being worked by God.
Call it a miracle how a child found a missing woman while he was simply playing. I'm Christine Persichetti. Current News starts right now.
They've just been through turmoil.
And now they're in New York, migrants arriving by the busload.
She's thankful from the bottom of her heart for the help.
But the Catholic Church is the first to welcome. Tonight on Current News, the help for migrants. Catholic Charities of New York is supplying food, clothing, shelter, and other needs for the migrants already in the Big Apple. Cardinal Timothy Dolan also met with the migrants on Tuesday, and they are already thankful for the assistance they need so much.
She's thankful to God for the help that she's received.
Jennifer is one of the hundreds of migrants who have arrived in New York City by bus from Texas during the past several weeks. But that bus ride was just part of her tough journey to get to the U.S.
It was very, very difficult to cross, and all the experiences that she's had. Natural phenomenon, weather, psychological, mental stress.
New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan met with Jennifer and some other migrants Tuesday at Catholic Charities Manhattan offices.
They've had a terrible journey, but yet they're filled. I don't see any animosity or they're filled with gratitude. They said people have helped us on the way. The church has been there.
Monsignor Kevin Sullivan, the executive director of Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of New York, says over the past 6 weeks, more than 1,500 migrants have arrived at their doorstep suddenly and unexpectedly.
Our staff is strained. They have sacrificed. Many asylum seekers have arrived hungry. They have been provided with food. Some have needed clothes, and they've received clothes.
And they provide these services because it's how Catholics respond.
We try to see with the eyes of Jesus, and he's the one who said to us, when I was a stranger, when I was an immigrant, you welcomed me.
But Catholic Charities is calling on the federal government to help them help the migrants, people who have escaped horrific situations looking for a better life.
She's come here for a change, for a better life, for more opportunities, and she wishes to work hard and contribute.
Catholic Charities says it will ensure the migrant children are enrolled in school for the fall, and Cardinal Dolan says scholarships will be available for them to attend Catholic schools. The number of migrants crossing the southern border has dropped for the second straight month in a row. According to Customs and Border Protection, authorities stopped migrants nearly 200,000 times in July. That's down almost 4% from the roughly 208,000 encounters in June. Single adults still make up the majority, accounting for roughly 67% of all the July crossings. The Bishop Emeritus of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio, is a recognized expert on migration, and he is extending his knowledge to the Tablet in his new column, Walking with Migrants. Whether he's speaking on policy, recent events at our border, or what needs to be done to help immigrants, the monthly column is a must-see for Catholics in both Brooklyn and Queens and around the country. So keep an eye out for Bishop DiMarzio's next article coming out in a few weeks. But if you want to read his past writings, just go to thetablet.org. You can find his column right there on the homepage. Help from FEMA is on the way for the victims of devastating flooding in Kentucky. The agency announced new steps after hearing frustrations from people who say their claims were denied. Mike Valenti has the story.
The survivors of last month's floods should now have an easier time navigating the application process for FEMA benefits. That's according to Governor Andy Beshear, who met with FEMA leadership this morning.
I think FEMA hurt us, and that's everybody. I think they see the stories of people that are suffering. I think they hear the frustration of lawmakers.
Governor Beshear gave voice to that frustration at a briefing last Thursday.
Too many people are being denied. Not enough people are being approved, and this is the time that FEMA's got to get it right to change what has been a history of denying too many people and not providing enough dollars, and to get it right here.
Today, the governor sounded optimistic about the changes FEMA's implementing. They include, for the first time ever, a texting program to reach more flood-impacted Kentuckians. Also, staff at disaster recovery centers now have the authority to approve claims on site.
This is a big step where people know where they can go, where they can talk to people. So if you've gotten a denial letter, don't let it stop there. If you've gotten a denial email, go into the disaster recovery center.
FEMA has more than 800 staff on the ground in eastern Kentucky.
You're not in it by yourself. The survivors are not alone in this. We are here trying to get you the assistance. We just got to get through the process and the paperwork.
In a press call today, FEMA representatives said the agency has paid more than $3.4 million in flood insurance claims and more than $36 million in FEMA grants to uninsured Kentuckians. The agency has approved housing assistance for 63% of people who applied so far. For other needs, that figure is 73%. If you've been denied, representatives say it might be for one of several reasons: insufficient damage, or problems verifying occupancy or identification, or other reasons. But FEMA leaders and Governor Beshear say the first denial does not need to be your final answer from the agency.
That was Mike Valenti reporting. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenberg, is in Kentucky. He just arrived there and joins us now. Hi, John.
Hi, Christine.
So, John, I know your first stop is the Diocese of Lexington Catholic Center. I know you've already spoken with people there about the devastation. What are they telling you about how bad it is?
Yeah, so Christine, right behind me is the Catholic Center for the Diocese of Lexington, which also houses their Catholic charities. So a lot of the response has come out of this building, even though the devastation is about an hour or so away and a little further. They've showed me different things, pictures, videos of, people just ripping out their homes. They have to take everything out, appliances, clothing, furniture, everything they have to take out because it was just flooded, destroyed. And a lot of it is now just sitting on yards waiting to be taken away because it can no longer be used. So that's just what a lot of this looks like. And they talked about, it's going to take time. And as they want to get this process moving so that they can get these things out of here and get cleaned up before the colder months roll around.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Now, you've covered the flooding and the response extensively. We know the Catholic Church was quick to respond with relief efforts. Tell us how much Catholic Charities has brought in and what's needed most right now.
Yeah, it's actually quite remarkable. Catholic Charities Lexington itself has raised $670,000, actually a little more than that, and that's not including $250,000 that was donated by Catholic Charities USA, and on top of that, there was a second collection that went around, and that money still hasn't been counted. So people are really pouring in their support. As far as what's needed, I can tell you that the diocese right now is on the phone with Home Depot talking about supplies and different things they can need. And I can also tell you that Catholic Charities USA, they're bringing down a washing machine truck. So basically people are able to wash their clothes and wear their own clothes because a lot of them aren't able to do that without the washer and dryers that were destroyed because of the flooding.
Right, and we know you just got there, so we're going to let you go so you can get to work. But tell us, where are you headed to next?
Yeah, so Christine, tomorrow I'll be headed to the place where a lot of the things that I just told you about exist. That's Jackson. It's about an hour and a half from here. So I'll be driving down there with Diocese of Lexington Catholic Charities. And down there, I'll just be talking to people, getting a sense of the scene. Just talking to people about what they need most and what this experience has been like and how they're handling and getting through it all.
All right, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenberg. We'll check back in with you tomorrow.
Thank you, Christine.
If you'd like to help the people in Kentucky, just go to CatholicCharitiesLexington.org and click on Disaster Services to donate. Stay tuned all this week as John Lavenberg continues to tour Kentucky and further see how Catholics are helping following those deadly floods. That's Wednesday on Currents News. The Biden administration just canceled billions of dollars in debt for all the remaining students defrauded by a major for-profit college. On Tuesday, the Department of Education announced it has approved $3.9 billion in debt relief for those who attended the now defunct ITT Technical Institute from 2005 through its closure in 2016. The move brings the total amount of student debt relief approved under President Biden to roughly $32 billion. St. John's University announced Friday that it'll be closing its Staten Island campus. According to the university's president, enrollment numbers at the Staten Island location have steadily declined over the past 2 decades, making it difficult to justify the cost of operation. The campus will now be phased out over the next 2 years before closing for good at the end of the 2024 spring semester. Monday was a nice day for the beach. Just ask the Catholics in Breezy Point who celebrated Mass with Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan.
Do this in memory of me.
The service in the sand was celebrating the solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Mass included 500 parishioners from Blessed Trinity Parish and the traditional blessing of the waters. Bishop Brennan, who was the main celebrant, was especially happy to have the chance to connect with Christ along the coastline.
I always used to tell people in Ohio that one of the 2 things I miss the most are my family and the ocean. And I am thrilled to be back here around the ocean and around these beautiful scenes, especially this late time of summer.
Bishop Brennan did bring up his love of the ocean when I spoke to him one-on-one shortly after he was announced as the new shepherd to the Diocese of Brooklyn. He also joked during that interview that his arrival in Brooklyn was a bad time to give up carbs, and I still cannot believe the bishop doesn't eat carbs. There's a lot more news headed your way. It's been a year since the U.S. pulled troops out of Afghanistan. Now there's a new report ripping how the government handled the withdrawal. Plus, the Inflation Reduction Act is now law, what it means for your wallet. And more weapons in the war against monkeypox, why there are hundreds of thousands of vaccine doses now available. The Taliban is tightening its grip on Afghanistan 1 year after America's chaotic withdrawal of forces from the country. Now, House Republicans are issuing a report criticizing the Biden administration's handling of the evacuations. And as Cole Higgins reports, once prominent women in the country now say they're living in hiding.
Heavily armed Taliban fighters parade through the streets of Kabul, Afghanistan, celebrating their takeover of the country 1 year after the U.S. ended its longest war, withdrawing forces in August of 2021. Those living under the new rule of the Taliban say they fear for the future of women in the country after the new government erased women from public life shortly after taking control.
My life now, I live like a prisoner. Please help us. And don't forget us.
Now, a scathing draft of a report from the Republicans' House Foreign Affairs Committee reveals additional new details about the Biden administration's failure to adequately plan for and execute the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan.
I think not heeding the warnings of the intelligence community that I was warned by, or his top generals in the Pentagon, about the dire situation on the ground, the imminent threat that Kabul was going to fall, the entire country was imploding, and yet the State Department and White House seemed to have this rosy picture of what was happening, completely devoid of reality.
The State Department says the GOP's report, quote, overlooks and gets wrong some facts, and that it will be releasing its own review on the withdrawal soon.
This process has taken some time is because the report itself is classified, and we need to make sure that everything we do or say is consistent with classification, security, and other imperatives.
I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
China has set sanctions against several lawmakers in Taiwan who supported House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island. Beijing made the announcement on Tuesday. Those sanctioned are banned from entering China, both the mainland and the islands of Hong Kong and Macau. Pelosi says her visit to Taiwan 2 weeks ago was a show of American support for the island's democracy, but the action triggered a warning and military drills by China. And taking China's side is Russian President Vladimir Putin, who recently accused the U.S. of igniting tensions between China and Taiwan. In a speech to a Moscow security conference, Putin claimed that the U.S. is trying to destabilize global relations, saying Pelosi's trip to Taiwan was part of a conscious strategy to undermine the region. The Russian leader also accused Washington of prolonging the war in Ukraine, this as Moscow's invasion of Ukraine enters its 6th month. And remembering those suffering in Ukraine, Pope Francis offered his prayers to the war-torn country during his Angelus Sunday.
E chiediamo il Signore misericordia speciale, misericordia e pietà per il martoriato popolo ucraino.
The Pope's prayer comes just days after he spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky over the phone. In a tweet, Zelensky said he had briefed the Holy Father on Russia's horrible crimes against Ukraine. Pope Francis has repeatedly expressed his interest in a potential visit to the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. U.S. health officials got a big boost in the fight against monkeypox. More than 400,000 vaccine doses are now available for local health departments as of Monday. That's thanks to the federal government's new vaccine strategy that allows providers to give 1/5 the size of previous doses. So far, more than 32,000 monkeypox cases have been recorded in over 80 countries. The U.S. has confirmed 11,000 cases. First Lady Jill Biden has tested positive for COVID-19. The Bidens were on vacation in South Carolina when the First Lady began experiencing mild symptoms on Monday. Jill, like her husband, has been twice vaccinated and twice boosted with the Pfizer vaccine. She has been prescribed the antiviral drug Paxlovid and will isolate at the vacation home for at least 5 days. Meanwhile, President Biden continues to test negative after recently recovering from the virus. On Tuesday, the president signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law. It's a $750 billion measure focused on health care, taxes, and climate. Amy Kiley looks at what it will mean for you.
People are going to see the benefits of this right at that kitchen table we always talk about.
White House cabinet members will travel to more than 20 states this month to tout the Inflation Reduction Act.
Immediately, people will be able to lower the fuel costs in their home.
The plan could save you money if you're trying to go green. It has tax credits for things like solar panels, energy-efficient windows and heat pumps, and it extends credits for electric vehicles.
And if you install an electric vehicle charging station in your home, you can also get a tax credit.
Those investments could lead to long-term gas and utility savings. The bill also affects health care. If you get an enhanced federal premium subsidy for Obamacare, it'll now last through 2025. If you're a senior, you might see lower prescription costs. That's because Medicare will be allowed to negotiate certain drug prices.
Reducing costs in Medicare is one of the ways that this bill actually reduces the federal deficit.
But economists disagree about whether the Inflation Reduction Act will actually reduce inflation. Some Republicans say that's why they oppose the measure. Some critics say Democrats haven't done enough to lower prices. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
While the Inflation Reduction Act addresses many Catholic goals in regards to clean energy, the executive director of the Catholic Climate Covenant believes there is still much to do. In a statement, he says in part, the legislation is not perfect as it continues and expands some incentives for fossil fuel exploration and mining. Our work to help ensure a thriving world for generations must continue, particularly in already heavily polluted communities that need our solidarity. Now to the latest on crime in the city. The NYPD is looking for a man who stole money from a synagogue in Brooklyn. According to police, the man broke into a Satmar Hasidic synagogue on Keep Street in Williamsburg last Wednesday. Surveillance video shows him wandering through the house of worship in the middle of the night, wearing a black surgical mask and latex gloves. Investigators say the suspect got into the building through a second-floor window and took money from a donation box. Police have arrested a man for allegedly throwing bricks at a city ambulance. According to authorities, EMTs responded to Long Island City to help a man who was acting erratically. But when they arrived, police say the man grabbed a brick and hurled it at the emergency vehicle. Police quickly responded and brawled with the suspect as they tried to take him into custody. 4 people, including 2 cops, an EMT, and a bystander, got caught up in the fight and were hospitalized with minor injuries. Still to come on Currents News, it's a twist on the Saints marching in. They're boating on the bayou. We'll take you to Louisiana for a prayerful procession. Plus, it's a toddler to the rescue, why the boy is being credited with saving a life when we come back. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Catholics in Louisiana brought their boats to the bayou as part of a 40-mile Eucharistic procession. The annual March by Land and by Sea takes place on the Feast of the Assumption. Led by the Blessed Sacrament, they sailed down the bayou, stopping to let out passengers for a rosary and benediction at a handful of churches. Each boat is decorated based on a chosen patron from a list of 50 Eucharistic witnesses. Those are saints and blesseds who, quote, exemplified a life totally dedicated to Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. The Eucharistic procession coincides with a national Eucharistic revival now underway. The 3-year campaign is calling on Catholics to rekindle their love and devotion for the Eucharistic heart of Jesus. It was started by U.S. bishops after a 2019 Pew Research Center study found that a majority of Catholics believe the bread and wine at Mass are just symbolic. For more information on the revival and to learn how to get involved, just visit their website at eucharisticrevival.org. He's a toddler who's not even 2 years old, but he's already come to the rescue for one Georgia family. As Zach Summers reports, he found a woman who'd been missing for days while doing something most children love.
Look, buddy, get it.
It started as a typical Friday afternoon.
We were coming this way. This is kind of where the bubbles went.
Brittany Moore and her son Ethan were enjoying bubbles in their backyard off of Al Roberts Road in Sonoya.
Go get the bubbles, E.
The bubbles drifted toward the family's fence line. Ethan and the dogs chased them like they normally would, but something in the woods caught little Ethan's eyes.
And I went over there and I was like, what do you see, buddy? And he pointed and he said, feet.
Moore didn't see any feet. That is until the mom of two crouched down and looked where her son was pointing.
But if you get on his level and you can look through, you can see some of the broken sticks, and that's where she was laying.
The woman in the woods was 82-year-old Nina Lipscomb. She was alive but disoriented.
They combed a 5 and a 10-mile radius, and there was no sign of her anywhere.
Karen Lipscomb said her mom has early onset Alzheimer's. She wandered from a nearby home where she was visiting family last Monday looking for her sister.
Her sister lived here in this house, but she passed away in March. But growing up, they lived on Glacier Road, which is right around the corner.
Can you say hi? Hi, sugar.
This afternoon, Nina and her family met little Ethan. The toddler, they said, likely saved her life.
We pulled out every resource that we thought we needed. But it was a little boy, and she's very fond of children.
Two families forever connected because a little boy wanted to play with bubbles.
It took a child, and it took a child that was being worked by God.
Angel to angel.
That was Zach Summers reporting. The Lipscomb family offered to give the Moore family reward money, but they refused. Nina turns 83 on Friday. What a story. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.